G'day mates, welcome to another episode of Antics with Aussie, where I keep you up to date with everything going on in competitive Fortnite, and that's what today's video is going to be. It's a giant recap of what's going on right now in the NA East Pro scene. Who's playing with who, where are they dropping, and who's coming out on top of those drops. Because in the last few days, we've had some big names. We've had Clix looking like he found a new team. We have Whofishy's team disbanding. We have Booger and Chap splitting up. We have Scoped and C splitting up. There's a lot of big changes, and quite often when people find new teams, they also change drop spots. So we have some real hot drop spots on the map right now, and I just want to keep you up to date. FNCS starts tomorrow. It's going to be super exciting, and I feel like it's just more enjoyable when you know who's going where and what's going on. So let's just jump straight into it. Who are the big names who've split up and who's on whose team at the moment? So I already did a video like this like a week ago, which kind of recapped all the big teams and where they were dropping and stuff. So if you want to go watch that video, I'll put it on the screen here because I'm not going to be covering too many big names like that. So for example, teams like Calc, Macwood, and Zexo, they're still together. I'm not going to be talking about them too much because nothing changed. I want to talk about the big names that have changed. And that means I have to talk about the biggest one first, Clix. Who is Clix playing with? Because unfortunately for me as a streamer, Bucky made this tweet, which sent everyone crazy. Oh my god, Bucky, Creo, and Clix, that means they dropped Kanata. Oh my god, what's going on? I said it from the first second I saw that tweet. It is an impression farm. They're posting this just to get likes because they know people will be talking about it. Some people believed me, some people didn't, but I'm gonna do the spoiler now. Clix is not playing with Bucky and Creo. It's Bucky, Creo, Kanata still, as they are one of the most consistent teams in NA East. Why would they drop Kanata for Clix, even though Clix is phenomenal when things are working with Kanata? How do I know this? Because we got this tweet from Zypher. So Clix and Zypher are still on a team with Nosh. So that's settled. That's the big one out of the way. Most kids have already clicked off this video now, but I'm gonna keep going with the other big names that you might want to find out about as well.
Use code NOTCLIX in the item shop to have the best day. Love you guys.
So I already talked about it in a video a few days ago. We did have Booger, Jamper, and Chap splitting up. Well, Booger and Jamper dropping Chap, so Chap was without a team. Booger and Jamper went back with Avery. Now we have Chap picking it up with Coop, which is a double FNCS and DreamHack winner last season, and Skittles. So they're looking pretty good too. I'm going to talk a bit later in the video about where they're now dropping, where everyone's going, and how well they're doing, but they're looking pretty good. The other big one is we had Scoped and Cease, who have been together since the start of the season, split up. We had Scoped, Cease, and Illust at one point. Illust left. Then we had Scoped and Cease, but now Scoped and Cease have left each other as well. It looks like Scoped has now found himself with High Sky, Sentinels High Sky, not FaZe High Sky, and they also have Twexy, which is an old console pro who's now playing on PC. So that team, I'm not really sure how they're going. It's only been a couple days. I don't know how permanent that is, but with warm-up starting tomorrow, I'd have to assume it's pretty permanent, which means that Cease is now playing with Blake, and they don't have a third. Maybe this is where Ronaldo sneaks in. They've played with Ronaldo in the past, so that might work. I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be the go there either. We'll have to see. The other big team I wanted to talk about was a team that I've been watching a lot on stream, which is Whofishy's team. They were doing so insanely well in the Chipotle Cup and in the scrims, but looks like they've split up now too. So that's three big names that are on the market looking for teams, which could shake things coming up into tomorrow. So those are most of the big names that I wanted to talk about. Pretty much there's, again, you still got the big names like Calc, Macwood, and Zexo are still together. You've got other big teams still together, but those are the ones that I wanted to cover. So now let's talk about where are they dropping and how are they doing in their drop spots, because with all these split ups, we've seen some big changes on the map, and they're creating some really interesting spawn fights. All right, so that's who's who, and I know that was a lot of names. I hope you could follow it, but let's talk about where they're dropping. And again, I'm not going to break down the whole map. There's just a few teams that I want to talk about, or areas that you can watch for that are going to be really exciting, especially towards the later ends of FNCS in the finals tournaments, where obviously it's set lobbies and people have their drop spots. Because right now, the biggest one is Stark Industries. Obviously, last week that was causing a whole bunch of drama. You had Booger, Jamper, and Avery dropping there when they were still a team, and then you had them going toe-to-toe with Scoped and Illust, Scoped, Cease, and Illust, and they had Cody's team. Now, literally all three of those teams have now changed or split up. So it's completely different now. We have Chap leaving Booger's team, which is now gone with Coop and Skittles. They're now going back to where Chap and Booger was dropping originally at Caddy Corners. They're doing like a Caddy Corner weather station kind of area split. My biggest concern for this drop spot is going to be how well it's going to work in opens. I don't know whether they'll stick to it in opens. It just doesn't have enough loot. If you have a team contest you at Caddy and a team at weather station, it becomes a giant shambles. It works well in finals because they get it to themselves, but when it comes to the opens, it's not the greatest. But who's still dropping Stark then? Well, Bugha splitting up with Chap. They haven't left the drop spot. You have Bugha, Jamper, and Avery firmly cementing themselves at Stark Industries, but they're going toe-to-toe with Scented, Commandment, and Edgy, who left Misty Meadows uncontested in finals lobbies to go to Stark Industries. How's that fight going? It's not going Bugha's way. So in scrims the other day, it was 4-1. So Scented, Edgy, and Commandment won at 4 games, and then Bugha, Jamper, and Avery only won it once. Now that was only one day, but it didn't look good. They were getting rolled pretty significantly. A lot of people were questioning whether they should leave. That's not enough to go off. Maybe they didn't do their drop spot test enough. Maybe they hadn't learned how they're going to play it. Maybe they come back swinging in finals this week and we see them take it over. But at this point, it's looking like it's going Scented, Edgy, and Commandment's way, which in my opinion is top 3, one of the best teams right now in NA East. They are very scary on spawn. They have one of the strongest leaders as far as fighters, which is in Scented. He is their IGL, he is their leader, and he's still a really good spawn fighter, which is quite scary. But then again, Bugha, Jamper, and Avery are very good fighters as well. So that is going to be a really fun drop spot to watch. We still have Doom's Domain. We still have Zayt, Saf, and Stretch going toe-to-toe with Bizzle, Dubs, and Mega. There were some confusions. People were saying today in the Chipotle Cup that Bizzle got dropped for Riversan. That is not true. Bizzle was only playing, Bizzle wasn't playing because he's already invited to the finals. So Riversan was playing with Dubs and Mega. And they did do really well though. Not saying they're going to split, not saying that's going to happen, but they did really, really well. So those are the 2 main drops that are like the most contested right now. You still have Bucky, Creo, Kanata at Slurpy Swamps looking really, really good, but they are going toe-to-toe with Acorn and Jark, which have been performing insanely well in Cash Cups and Scrims, so a little bit scary there. You have AV, Rogue Shark, and Knight, kind of my sleeper team that I think is going to do insanely well if any team is, and they're dropping in the Fortilla area, and those are kind of the main ones around the map right now that are like the scariest drops. You obviously still have Calc, Calc, Macwood, and Zex Road going at Craggy, so they're also kind of around that Stark Industries area as well. So those are kind of the big drop spots right now to look out for with the biggest teams, and it's been kind of, you know, going backwards and forwards at Stark Industries. It's going to be super exciting in finals, but the issue with the format right now is going at NA East. You're going opens to top 1,000 down to 33. So there's going to be a lot of big teams that don't make that jump from 1,000 to 33. You get griefed a few times by a not so smart team, maybe even stream snipe, these things we've seen in the past. You're not going to qualify. 1,000 to 33 is huge. A lot of people were asking for a round in between that. So as much as I'm talking about how are people going to go in opens versus finals, we'll have to see. The last thing I want to talk about, you guys know, I don't particularly like doing tier lists. I don't like to tell you who I think the best teams are, but I'm going to try my best to just talk a little bit about teams that I'm looking out for that I think are doing really well, but also why there's a lot of teams that could do really well that people aren't focusing on. So let's jump into that now as well. So I was talking about this on stream a little bit today, and I was talking about when people keep asking me, oh, how well do you think, for example, Scope's team's going to go? How well do you think Scope's going to go? The giant question marks for me is players like Zypher and High Sky, and even Chap to an extent as well, who they're not good solo players. They're team players. They're IGLs. I've talked about this in my guide videos. They're the team leaders. They're the ones who are really smart. They make good decisions. They're really good at tarping endgame, and they have good communication. Those 3 things don't help that much in solos. So like you have a lot of really, really good IGLs who aren't that good at solos. So people ask me, how well is High Sky going to go? I don't know. We've had 2 full seasons of solos. So unless you're a good solo player, it's really hard to understand. Has the player fallen off? Are their mechanics a little bit washed? Are they not as good of a player? Or do they just not perform because it's solos? So I don't know. There's quite a few teams that have these kind of players, like Clix's team with Zypher, that could do insanely well because people know them to be really, really good team game mode leaders, but they haven't done well the last couple seasons. So they're giant question marks for me. But I keep getting asked, who do I think the best teams are right now based on performance in scrims and tournaments? So again, I'm going off performance. Please don't flame me. I'm not going off who my favorite players are. I'm not going off who are the mechanically best. I'm just going off who's performing because I'm watching a lot of scrims, a lot of tournaments. I'm watching everything. If you've seen my stream, I watch everything. My favorite teams so far definitely have to be Bucky, Creo, Kanata, Bugger, and Centered, Edgy, and Commandment. Those are the 2 teams that I think are doing really, really well. AV, Rogue Shark, and Knight were arguably, well, they were the most consistent team in scrims for the first few weeks of the seasons based on the leaderboards, but they were going for Tiller, and the boat fishing nerf was huge to them, and I feel like it's affected them more than any other team. Also, AV had a broken controller, which he finally got a new controller today, and man, he was looking pretty clean. So I think that was having a big impact on the team, but overall, they started to come back a little bit, but I just don't know. Also, I am basing all of this off watching stacked games. We've only had 1 Trio Cash Cup. That's our only chance to watch how the teams are going in open lobbies. Other than that, all I'm basing it off are stacked scrims, and they're not the best indicator for how well teams are going to go, because like I said, they have to go from that top 1000 to top 33 to even make it to the stacked lobbies. These opens tournaments aren't going to be as stacked as what the top 100 pro teams are. So if you have people getting into finals, like let's say Centered, Edgy, Commandment make finals, but then Booger's team doesn't. If Centered, Edgy, Commandment have uncontested Stark, they're going to do insane. So a lot of the questions I'm getting asked about who's the best and how they're going, it's going to really depend on this weekend. This warm-up weekend is going to be a really, really good indicator of how FNCS is going to go, because it's going to be those teams that can transition from open lobbies into stack lobbies and play them both, because right now we haven't watched enough open lobbies. I talked about it at the start. How is Chap's team going to go dropping Weather Station and Caddy Corners if multiple teams drop on them? Are they going to change their drop spot to somewhere else and then go back there for the finals? I don't know. We're going to have to see, and that's what I wanted to make today's video about. That pretty much is everything I wanted to talk about. I know that's a lot of talking. I usually like to put clips in there, but I keep getting asked on stream a lot to do these recap videos to keep you, again, up to date with what's going on. I'm not just covering like, you know, drama or a little bit of beef and stuff like that. I do want to cover just what's going on in the pro scene. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'm making pretty much daily content like this. Before you go though, I talked a little bit earlier about how Chap, Skittles, and Coop are doing pretty well. Wait till you see this clip from Coop. This just shows why Coop is one of the scariest fighters in the game. It was absolutely ridiculous. So I hope you guys enjoyed this clip. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Baz. Oh wait.
190. Nice. You want to crack the other kid? Oh, nice!
Oh my god.
Crack that out. Reset the shit.
I'm the best in the game! Get off me, baby!
Get on first. Get
Off me! Sit the f down! That's a 1v3! Sit the f down!